Hello, and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance, where I am your host, Alacius Inger.
And I'm Duncan Sandlin. Hey, everybody. Welcome. How are you, Lace?
I'm excellent. You know, we don't normally film in the morning, so I'm usually drinking tea and every other beverage, but I'm rocking the coffee this morning because we've gone wild with taping this week.
Oh, my gosh. So much stuff
Almost as wild as the news.
I know.
Almost as wild as the news.
So we have
Duncan.
Go ahead.
Duncan, I feel like we should, I know I'm disruptive this morning.
Yeah,
so I feel like we should, warn our audience here that we're probably going to be a little heavy on politics this week because it's sort of like the news gone wild. I know I'm always like, God, it can't get weirder. And then it does. And then I say that every week. So it's kind of become Lacey's always going to say that. But it really is so weird that we really might not even ever exit the politics segment of our show this week.
Up front, apologies to all of our finance nerds out there, because we are finance nerds too, but we're also advisors, so quality of life is much more important to us, so we got to cover some of this stuff. So this is going to be, very politics, culture kind of heavy.
Hey, it affects your wallet too. It really does.
Absolutely does. So we got to start with my favorite, and my business partner Eric, his favorite, Rudy Guiliani. Rudy Giuliani was in court, and he was in court for defamation of these two women who were poll workers. Basically went on Fox News and some other channels and said that they had cheated the election when that wasn't true. And these poor women got death threats. They were terrorized. It was horrible. So the court just tagged Giuliani and said, all right, you're guilty and you have to pay them $148 million, which Rudy Giuliani didn't have. So he got really nailed.
Right there.
All right, so we're going to start with this quick clip. This is Michael Polpak, and he's on a show called The Midas Touch that we've clipped before. But Michael Polpak was a federal lawyer for a long time, so he knows this stuff really well. He's going to talk a little bit about this, and then we're going to start making fun of it because it's just hilarious. The whole thing is just crazy.
This is Michael Polpak, Legal AF. Rudy Giuliani is in trouble again. First day of his trial, and he's already stepped in the bucket with the judge once again, the same judge that sanctioned him half a dozen times for misconduct in the pre-trial. This judge is now very upset with him and wants answers about why Rudy Giuliani, on the courthouse steps, told reporters that everything he said about Ruby Freeman and Shane Moss committing voting fraud was true when the judge has already ruled that it is not true. And
I forgot to mention
with Rudy Giuliani.
Okay, that's another thing I meant to mention. Okay, so there's so much to this story. I'm gonna miss things, but
it's an onion. Got to peel back those layers, Duncan.
Oh my gosh, it's depressing. It's like an onion with severe depression cutting itself. It's that bad. I mean, this is such a bad story.
So now we're like in like the territory of suicidal onions or something.
Yes, suicidal onions. So Giuliani is found guilty of this, right? He then goes out onto the courthouse steps and tells the press, I'm not guilty, and he defames these women again after being found guilty for defaming them.
Okay.
Yeah, no. Oh, no, it's even worse than that. It's going to get worse. We're going to get into that in a second, but it's just a shit show.
Own written stipulation under oath that he knows that he committed defamatory statements against them, and argued in his filings that he shouldn't even have a trial because he's already admitted and he's willing.
Oh, I forgot that. He already admitted to this. I forgot that.
To settle. The new Rudy Giuliani, in the clip I'm about to show you, went out on the courthouse steps and defamed them once again.
Okay, here it is.
What happened to them, which is, it's unfortunate if other people overreact, but everything I said about them is true.
Do you regret what you did to
Of course I don't regret it. I told the truth. They were engaged in changing votes.
There's no proof of that.
Oh, you're damn right there is. Stay tuned.
We knew that Judge Beryl Howell was.
So it's amazing to me because in court he says, "No, that's not true. I lied." Blah blah blah. He tells the truth, right? Because there's consequences. But in front of the press, he just lies. The man has no scruples.
So, I mean, honestly, it makes me think, like, does he really think he's that big of a deal, or is he like starting to go a little senile and he's like losing touch in some way? Because he seems so out there. It seems so weird, and like he should be smart enough to know that. I mean, his goose is kind of cooked. Like, why is he, trying to drive this still?
Yeah, I had that conversation with my father the other day, and he was saying, like, what's up with Giuliani? It's like the guy went from America's mayor to this, and I'm like, no, he's always been like this. He's always been a little out there and a little crazy. I mean, the guy's first wife was his cousin.
I did not know that.
You didn't know that? Oh,
No.
yeah. Yes, yeah, honey, America's mayor is a cousin-nuzzler.
It's weirder and weirder to me.
Oh, yeah. He's a cousin-nuzzler. Total cousin-nuzzler. Yeah. The guy's always been out there. It's always...
I got nothing for that.
Okay. Well, if you guys haven't watched it, watch the whole thing with Michael Popak. Popak, sorry. That is right. The guy showed up with his pants undone to court. Mayor of New York, federal lawyer. This is better than the time when he was about to. He's still in that trial to get disbarred, to see if they're going to disbar him. And they finished the case. They were doing it on Zoom. And they finished it, and Rudy's like, "Hey, I'm wearing 2 watches on the same wrist." He didn't realize for 3 hours he was wearing 2 watches. Didn't realize it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you want to say it's a little crazy, but I don't know. Like, there's something kind of really wrong with him.
Well, I mean. And he just he's being sued for sexual assault of his legal assistant, who he raped for years. It's just, I mean, yeah, the guy is out there.
Man.
Did you ever see the Borat movie?
Yeah, years ago. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So
I used to have a roommate that used to like to do his favorite Borat impression. So yes, I'm well versed with Borat.
Yeah, my wife. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, but no, man, Rudy is. Man. Go ahead.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he's off the chart. I mean, but it tells you a lot if that's your lawyer, and you're say, I don't know, Donald Trump. Tells you a lot about your situation.
Well, I mean, at this point, like, why would you be picking him to be your lawyer at this point? Because, okay, we're kind of making fun of him, but like, there's a part of my brain that's like, is there actually something seriously wrong with him at this point? Like that he needs like legit help for, because he seems like he's gone really off the rails in a way that makes me think like he's not okay.
And I'm going to tell you the same thing I told my father. He has always been like this.
I guess maybe now it's more like
apparent.
Out in the open, or It's become more apparent. I mean, that seems possible that there could have been something going on like that, for years, and it just was masked more. You know what I mean? And now it's just not really masked anymore.
Well, back then he had a whole team of people trying to mask it. In fact, when he ran for mayor, they his team actually flagged that he had a weirdness issue about him. And partly because, he was married to his cousin, but he was also just a weird guy. And so they spent a lot of time and money trying to hide that fact. And that's just kind of how it went. So, yeah. But there's Rudy. We covered Rudy. Eric's going to be happy now. I covered it. So.
All right, Eric, that one was for you.
That was for you.
We talked about the boy.
That was
we
for you,
talked
little
about your
brother.
boy, Eric.
So let's move on. So the Republicans have voted to impeach Joe Biden. You know, me, the king of segways. Anyway, that's what's going on. They've got nothing. There's no evidence that Joe Biden did anything wrong or illegal.
Honestly, it's, in my opinion, it's just like an election year move so that they can, say during any debates and any speeches, yeah, well, you've been impeached, blah blah. It's like it's so they can try to throw dirt on him in the campaign.
No, it's a kiss ass move to Trump, so that way Trump can say, "Well, I was impeached, Biden was impeached." See, it doesn't.
That's my point.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But Hunter Biden, on the other hand, Hunter Biden, his son, did commit crimes. He committed tax evasion. He owned a gun illegally. Right. Nothing I would call like, horrible ethical crimes or anything like that, but they were still crimes. And he's admitted to it. He admitted to it in his book. He's paid back the taxes he owed, yada, yada. But now he was going to take a deal, but now all of a sudden they're going to convict him, which, it is what it is. And, I wish him the best, but I mean, if he has to do time, he has to do time. That's just how it goes. He did commit the crime. Anyway, so that's happening, but he got subpoenaed to testify in Congress, right? Because they're for this whole scam impeachment bullshit. And he said, yeah, I'll testify, but I want to do it publicly. And the Republicans were very upset about that. And I'm going to have David Pakman here kind of walk us into it. We've used David Pakman before. He's got a great show.
Well, Republicans finally are getting what they want from Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden has offered to testify publicly for Republicans, to take questions, to explain his view, to be held accountable for all of the allegedly evil things he's done. Except all of a sudden, Republicans don't want Hunter Biden to testify publicly. Now they want him to testify behind closed doors. Why? Well, they tell us why. So that they can spin what happened, so that the American people can't see Democratic members of the House ask him basic questions, get straightforward answers, which will all make the conspiracy theories about Hunter and Joe Biden evaporate. Why won't he talk to us? Oh, I'll talk to you. Well, no, we can't do it publicly. We must do it behind closed doors. They are not serious people.
And David is absolutely right there. That was the deal. He wanted to do it publicly. His attorneys told him to do it publicly. And if it were me, I would want to do it publicly. I want it on the record. I want everybody to know what I said,
Well, I like that move because it's like, okay, you want to keep using me and the things that I've done in my past as ammunition.
Right.
Fine, let's put it literally all out there, and I'm going to testify, and America can make their own thoughts and their own choices and listen to literally what I have to say, as opposed to whatever you decide to pull up and throw out there.
No, absolutely.
I love that, because whether he's right, wrong, or somewhere in the middle, if it's all out there, then the media can't, or Republican Party can't just decide to present only this portion of it. All of his stuff is out there.
Sure. No, I agree. Is he a flawed human being? Yes. He made a lot of mistakes. Absolutely. But to use that against his father, I think is pretty chicken shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hate that if you tried to use, some mistakes I made against my father. That would be very upsetting.
Because unless your father was somehow involved in it with you, it wouldn't have anything to do with your father. Well, it would be your screw-ups, not his,
Right. Yeah, my parents should not be held accountable for the things I do.
No, you're we won't say how old, but you are a fully grown adult man. You are not 16. If you were 16, then, you know, it becomes your parents' issue.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, at that point, it's different. But so there's that issue. On the top of that fact, it's like this whole idea that Biden's corrupt and he's doing all this shit to protect his son. That's a little discounted by the fact that he just got indicted for all this shit. If the president of the United States, if his son, his only surviving son, is indicted, I think we can sit there and say, yeah, the legal system's working.
yeah, it's
You
true.
know?
It's true. He doesn't have a get out of jail free card
No.
because look what's happening.
Yeah. Can't say that about, Bush Jr., who was president. All his crimes got forgiven when his daddy became president. So
yeah, let's not forget that.
No, not at all. But that was that. But this was the Republican sort of bullshit excuse for why they don't want Hunter to speak publicly. Right? And this is Lou Dobbs, who's a total moron. But here we go.
Brent Bozell is from the Media Research Center and joins me now. Oh, what are you in favor of? A closed-door meeting where you can ask him any questions you like, or an open public meeting where the public can see what's going on?
Well, that's a tailored question. See,
I'm not going to lie, that question in and of itself sort of cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because when the question gets tailored in that way, there's really only one way that you can answer that question without looking like an idiot.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's... Lacey, what would you prefer? That we have an actual trial where we view the evidence, or that we murder this person who's a horrible human being and just hang him? What would you prefer?
I really can only answer one way at this point, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a fucking bullshit question. Lou Dobbs is such an a-hole. I'm sorry. Sorry to say it. Gotta say it.
Well, I think both. We understand why Hunter Biden is saying this. He wants the attention. He's pretty good on his feet, and I think he's going to be able to make this a show with all the Democrats supporting him against the Republicans. Yet the Republicans just don't have a good track record in these hearings. So I think it should be a closed-door hearing as they want, and it should be an open hearing to let him have a public say.
Got it. Next one, Brent. Biden's political opponents have been censored by big tech 162 times.
Yeah,
Biden
right.
himself.
All right, anyway, so... and that's a bullshit figure, by the way. Anyway, yeah, I mean, the guy gave a pretty... I don't even know if it's a good answer, but it's a tactical answer, I guess, in a certain sense.
It's a tactical answer because it makes him look like an attention-seeking little kid, right? It kind of does its best to discredit him and draw attention away from the fact that what Hunter Biden has done is said, fine, you want to use me like this, let's put me out there. All of it.
Absolutely. And, the thing about it is like, yeah, he spent, God, I think he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars that he just took out of ATMs that he spent on hookers and coke and whatever else he was doing, right?
Hookers and blow.
Yeah, and I'm like, I want to know about the ATM fees. That would be my questioning right there. It's like, was it like $3 every time you took out money?
And does he belong to a credit union like I do that refunds a certain amount of those every month?
Sure.
I sure hope so.
Sure. I mean, I'd be curious. My gosh, just the amount of hookers and drugs he did. I'm just curious. How are you walking?
Such a good question.
I can't even do that. I eat a pizza and I feel like a little crappy the next day.
And that's without the hookers and blow.
I've never done hookers and blow. I don't know. Don't think I could do it.
Ooh, that rhymed. You might have the start of some good poetry going on there.
Oh, there you go. It's a rap. So let's wrap this up. Chris Hayes is going to talk about this real quick, and then we'll wrap up the Hunter Biden thing. But yeah, geez, I want to know about all the hookers and blow.
The president's son, Hunter Biden, who's already been charged, who had charges brought against him by a prosecutor in Delaware. It looked like they were going to come to a plea agreement. The judge in that rejected that plea months ago. We went back to square one. That U.S. attorney was elevated to be a special prosecutor who's now brought some felony charges against him for a felony in possession of a gun. We got news tonight that there are additional tax charges, 3 federal felony tax charges against Hunter Biden. These are coming out of a California district. I think that's probably where he was living at the time. Failure to file and pay taxes, evasion of assessment, false or fraudulent tax return, failure to file and pay taxes. Your thoughts on that?
I think this has been somewhat of a debacle for the Justice Department and the special prosecution. It really looks like they're punishing him for their messy plea bargaining ability and the failure to resolve it. With this kind of a tax charge, and we're not talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in evasion, the fact that he had already paid it back, that usually will absolve the person of the criminal charges here. But these charges were not unexpected.
Yeah, I got to back this guy up on that. So there's 2 points to this. So, and we both work with finance, and we both work in taxes, and we do that a lot. I've never, ever seen anybody convicted of failure to pay taxes, especially when they pay them back. Usually you get fines and you have to pay it back, and that's it. And it's not
in order for it to even go into any semblance of a court situation, that's really rare. That's getting really far, because really the first time you just get notices in the mail about, past due tax things, and here's a new deadline before it escalates, and and if somebody pays it back, then it's just done.
Right. And usually
nothing happens.
Yeah, usually because the IRS doesn't want to put anybody in debtor's prison because that's illegal.
Well, not to mention, it takes a lot of resources for them to have to bother to pursue things on that kind of level.
Absolutely.
If the person has, can just receive their notices and their late fees, fines, etc., penalties, and just pay it, then they want to be done with it. They don't want to spend all of their resources trying to pursue something that's gotten paid, essentially.
Well, right. And furthermore, tax evasion is one of those things where you have to prove willful intent. Because people screw up and they forget to pay their taxes or whatever happens. But that's not like intending to.
Or they do it wrong. They make errors. I'm gonna be honest with you, as a licensed tax preparer, there's this idea that if you just call the IRS, they're going to give you the answer. I have to tell you, I cannot tell you how many times I've called the IRS because I'm literally reading the tax code, and it's worded in such a way to where it can be interpreted in multiple directions, and which way it's interpreted impacts how I do my client's return and the outcome they receive. And I don't want my clients getting notices. Sometimes that happens where the IRS goes, "We decided to change this," and they're getting notices. I don't want that for them.
No.
You call the IRS, and you know what the IRS loves to say? Well, you're the preparer, and it's your job to interpret the tax law. That's not our role. Which will make you absolutely crazy, because they're the ones that are literally going to send a notice to your client telling them they've changed it, but you called them and the IRS won't literally tell you how they want you to do it.
Right.
So,
no, I've heard that before.
I'm saying
it's your job to interpret it. I've heard that before. It's like, I'm not a federal judge.
Right.
I'm a financial advisor. I'm not a federal judge.
Yeah.
I don't interpret the law. I don't write it. I don't interpret it. I just abide by it.
Right, and I'm trying to call you, who's going to send corrections to my clients, and asking you to tell me how I'm supposed to abide by this,
Right. But you got to remember, too, the IRS has been heavily understaffed. Just woefully understaffed for the last, 20 years. It's been bad.
Yeah.
So I feel for him. But it's like, okay, so first off on the tax charge for Hunter Biden, Not something you usually convict somebody for. You'd usually
No.
he's paid it back. It's been paid. Yeah, it was like $1 million or whatever it was, but he paid it. It's been paid back. So who gives a shit? Normally, that's not something we tell. The other thing about the weapons charge, okay, so he bought a gun, and when he bought the gun, said he was not on drugs or addicted to drugs when he was, right? Also something we don't usually convict people for. He gave the gun back after like a week. Not
Right.
normal things we convict anybody for. And this guy has actually nailed the point where it's like, look, if his name wasn't Hunter Biden, if he wasn't Joe Biden's son, none of this would probably be happening to him. This would have all been fucking dismissed. He'd be on probation at the worst. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy nailed it. I mean, there's nothing here. It's a dead issue. But this is all what's, like you said earlier, this is all about the election next year. We need to attack Joe Biden and make it look like, you know, they're horrible and his family's horrible and he's all a part of it. And he's the big ringleader, right? Like he's Al Capone or some bullshit.
The plea fell apart, so theoretically, everything that you were trying to resolve with the plea comes back.
Just for context, Lisa, I mean, people that don't know tax law would be astounded by the insane abrogation you can have of paying your taxes that are not dealt with criminally and are basically worked out in the civil system or through negotiations. I mean, huge amounts of money. It is, you got to really go out of your way. Very high bar for criminal prosecution of tax charges.
That's right. And what I remember from the earlier proceedings, Chris, is our colleague at NBC News, Tom Winter, saying, to the extent that the Hunter Biden case reflects a two-tiered system of justice, it said it disfavored Hunter Biden, even at the stage where we were expecting both a plea agreement and a diversion on the gun charges. There were people who thought even that was too harsh. So now that he's subject to not one, but two indictments, one in the District of Delaware and now this new tax indictment in California, I think that really thoroughly deflates the Trumpian argument that there are two systems of justice and Donald Trump is the one disfavored by it.
Lisa Rubin,
yeah, I think she just nailed that. She just knocked that one out of the park. I mean, you can't sit there and say the justice system isn't working when we're tagging him for all these crimes. In fact, two of them are felonies.
If anything, it's really just proving how much it is working.
Right. On top of that fact, they're crimes that we usually just forgive. They're not moral crimes. They're not ethical crimes. He's not hurting anybody. Right? They're minor financial crimes, but one the gun charge, and that's it. And I'm sorry, but if you're a Republican and you're sitting there saying, "Hey, we need to tag him for the gun charge," when you're the one saying unlimited guns all the time, you really don't have a fucking leg to stand on. I mean, I can call the leg store right now. You've got no leg to stand on. They won't sell you a leg. I'm telling you. Just saying.
No.
But yeah, no, I think that's an interesting point. I mean, this whole thing shows that if you're going to sit there and say, well, yeah, they're being unfair to Trump, or they're being unfair to the Republicans, or whatever it is that they're arguing, you've lost your ground. Because Hunter Biden's getting nailed when he really shouldn't be.
If he were anybody else, it wouldn't be an issue at all because, you know, he's paid back what he needed to pay back. Not saying that the situation was ever good in the first place,
No.
but we wouldn't be bothering to try to shine a light on a guy or gal that already took care of the problem.
Sure.
We wouldn't bother.
Sure, and what we're talking about essentially, and the courts understand these sort of things, which is we're talking about a drug addict who's now clean, who's cleaned himself up, and he fucked up, and he's made amends, and he's paid it back.
Well, he's taking care of it in all of the legal ways in which he's supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's gotten himself clean from the drug issue too, so he's taking care of that. He's essentially taking care of all the parts he can.
Yeah, well, and he's had to because of who his father is, and he's got to protect his father. And it's not like his father gave him money to do any of this. Right? He did this on his own. So, I mean, you got to give the guy some points. I'm just saying that. That's my whole argument on that. All right, so we're back. Lacey's got coffee. We're good to go. All right, so.
Important things in life, man. Important.
And very important. Anyway, so the Republicans, as part of their sort of blackmail deal on the debt ceiling thing, which they keep bringing back, right? We just went through it in December. We went through it before, not December, just 3 or 4 months ago, and then a few months before that. And it keeps getting kicked down the road, but now they've come back, and Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House, has done this whole deal where he wants to deport like 2 million immigrants, which frankly isn't physically possible and is, immoral and cruel in a lot of ways. But he's going to do that. And if Biden doesn't give in, they're going to block all aid to Ukraine and Israel. And here is, what's her name? Nancy Cordes with CBS. This woman has the bluest eyes I've ever seen. But she's going to tell us about this whole situation. You see that?
Yeah, right?
Super blue.
What if that's really her, or if that's like contact lenses? That's crazy.
No, I think that's her.
In another major development tonight, Republican senators blocked a White House request for more than $100 billion in emergency aid, primarily for Ukraine and Israel. There's money in that bill for the border, but conservatives are demanding big policy changes. CBS's Nancy Cordes is at the White House. All right, Nancy, so what is it that the Republicans
Nancy
want?
Cordes, sorry.
Nora, what they want are sweeping concessions on immigration policy. But the president had some harsh words for them here today. He said Ukraine is going to lose its fight against Russia without more American help soon. And he said the failure to provide that assistance before the holidays would be the best gift that Russian President Vladimir Putin could get. Here's the issue. Many Republicans in Congress actually support the $61 billion the White House is seeking for Ukraine. But they're vowing to vote against it until they secure those sweeping changes to U.S. border policy in the face of a record number of migrant crossings this year. Democrats called their plan.
So I got 2 points on this. One is most of those migrant crossings are because of economic problems and famine and things like that in those countries, a lot of which we caused.
Nobody wants to talk about that.
The issue with Ukraine, Ukraine is a country that's being invaded, and they're going to be a great ally, and we need to protect them going forward. Israel, on the other hand, we don't really have time to get into the details, but Israel is an apartheid state, and they're very oppressing the Palestinian people, and they've committed a number of war crimes. So any dollar amount we give them to fight Hamas, and I'm not saying we shouldn't deal with Hamas, I'm just saying any dollar amount we give them needs to be attached with a lot of concessions to it. But the bottom line is to deny our allies money. And to threaten that at this point it's so inhumane, it's unthinkable.
Right.
Especially for the Ukrainians. Because they're fighting Russia. I mean,
well, and what's important that the American people know is the American people need to know if that aid does not go to them, it's the Republicans' fault. Know who it is who's doing the thing.
right. And
know who's responsible for it. It's literally the Republicans, because they're trying to hold people hostage in order to get what they want.
Well, and what is it that they want? They want to get rid of immigrants. And immigrants that are coming here for aid, they're coming here for amnesty, as a part of what? Policies that those people voted for.
They literally created all of it.
So, yeah. So the whole thing is just disgusting. I just wanted to, we can hit that and quit it. I just wanted to hit that because it's such an ugly factor of the economic issue. And it's also part of the reason why Moody's just downgraded us. Or was it Moody's or Fitch? It might have been Fitch. Right? But this disparage about the debt ceiling and whether or not America's going to pay its bills on time, it's damaging the quality of our currency, the value of our currency, which damages everything else in our economy. And these people are happy to do it to what? Hurt immigrants? Leave our allies to twist in the wind while they're at war? I don't get it. They're willing to hurt us, the American people, because they hate all these other people so much. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I don't get it either.
Anyway, so while we're talking about the Republicans, I want to move to this because we talked about this before. So there's two big issues that we talked about before, and we're going to talk about them again right now. One is the elections are coming up next year. It's going to be a big election, 2024, for presidency. Republicans are heavily running on the anti-trans people stuff, and they're trying to avoid the abortion issue.
Of course they are.
Because what they don't realize is both these issues make them look bad. And what the Republicans don't understand is the Democrats are going to run on the counter to that, and they're going to run on the economy and what's going on with that. But I want to talk about the trans issue first. Let's start with that. This is Leisha Miller. She's a former attorney or current attorney, I can't remember, but she's got her own show, and she breaks this down really well. We're going to watch a couple clips from her real quick because she breaks down the trans issue really well and why it's an issue.
But this has been a long time coming.
Oh, you remember this woman? Lacey?
No.
This is Anita Bryant.
Oh, geez, okay.
Yeah. She was the one who ran against gay rights. She wanted to make it legal to evict and fire gay people and throw them on the street. That was her whole spiel.
Anita Bryant was once known as an orange juice saleswoman. Not anymore. With a religious fervor that has made her America's most controversial woman overnight, she has been selling her Save Our Children group. Her group is crusading to repeal a new Dade County law which protects homosexuals in jobs and housing. Anita Bryant began her...
See how old this video is? To save homosexuals. The homosexuals. You know those people, Lacey, the people that are coming for your children. The homosexuals.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, that is the word, but it's not the word that gets spattered everywhere. So
no. Yeah, I know a lot of gay people. They're not sexual predators. They aren't. They aren't. I mean, that was the whole point of Harvey Milk, who ran against Anita Bryant's whole campaign. When he ran for office in San Francisco. And he did that whole movement. The movement was literally called come out wherever you are. And the idea behind it is look, if they know us, if they realize they know one of us, they vote for us 2-1. Which is true. Absolutely true. If you know somebody who's gay, they're not scary.
You know, knowing somebody who's gay is some of the best medicine for somebody who's terrified of people who are gay. It's sort of, you know, not that much fun to be the gay person that is the antidote to the issue. But I'm thinking about a particular woman in my life that is one of my friend's mothers, and my friend is queer. My friend's a lesbian, and it was a big issue between her and her mother that actually kept my friend from coming out for many, many years. My friend did not come out to her family. She was out to me, but she wasn't out to her family for a very long time. And it caused issues in her personal life because it's hard to become partnered in that situation because nobody wants to be your roommate for the rest of their life, you know?
Right.
So that becomes an issue. Anyway, the situation with her mother, when it got better, was when one of her mother's friends came out to her.
See?
And she realized that her friend, whom had been her friend for decades, was queer, and it forced her to go, oh, but I've been friends with this person for decades, and this person has never been coming for my children, and this person has not come on to me, has not come on to, you know, all of those funny fears that somehow people get in their minds. And she realized, oh, my friend is just my friend, and my friend also happens to be queer. And it did amazing things for my friend's relationship with her mother, and she was finally accepted, and these things have moved on. So sometimes really the antidote to the issue is people coming out. But no offense, I really don't want to be the pill either. You know?
No, I understand. Not the same thing, but I worked undercover for a long time, and it's difficult leading a double life. Which is why I'm painfully honest now, which, you know, sometimes I'm too honest, but it's hard.
Sometimes I'm like, Duncan, shut up.
Yeah, but it's hard when you have to live a lie for a long period of time. You know, It changes you. It does, and it's really unrelenting and unfair. But let's watch Leisha talk about this, because this is important, I think.
Cited her church, where the congregation believes the new law will force them to hire homosexual teachers.
Anita Bryant was a singer who had a handful of pop hits in the 60s and toured with Bob Hope, performing holiday shows for troops overseas.
She was also Miss America for a while.
Sang at the White House numerous times, and she was the spokeswoman for the Florida Citrus Commission, appearing in commercials for orange juice. She was also a born-again evangelical Christian on a mission to restore good Christian American values in the United States. In 1977, in Dade County, Florida, of all places, the Dade County Commission approved a law that would outlaw discrimination based on sexual orientation in employment, housing, and public services. News of the ordinance spread quickly, especially among the Dade County evangelical churches, of which then 36-year-old Anita Bryant was a member. Specifically, apparently, a police sergeant came and made a presentation to the church members about the dangers of homosexuality and showed them gay and child porn to, I guess, expose the wicked ways of homosexuals.
Yeah, which is such a
in church, they're watching a bunch of child porn, blaming the queer folks for it, so they can further attack a bunch of innocent gay people that just want to have jobs and places to live.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good job, conservatives. Good job.
Well, and you used to live here in Oregon, so you know this. Well, you probably don't know this. The first law that they passed, that was a bill to basically legalize discrimination of homosexuals. So you could fire them, you could evict them, throw them out on the street, with no repercussion, was in Eugene.
hippie central.
I
How
know.
crazy is that?
Yeah.
Like Eugene is, listen,
well,
for those of people in America do not know Oregon, Eugene is like the ultimate of like hippie locations in Oregon, man.
University of Oregon, yeah. Very academic, very pot friendly. you know. But yeah, back
wow, I did not know that. I'm a little surprised by that. Eugene, Oregon. That's crazy.
Yeah. Oregon was bad. But you realize it was illegal to own a house if you were non-white until 1978 in Oregon, in Portland.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, we've changed a lot over here. Anyway, so the issue comes down to why is this an issue? Why are the Republicans making this an issue? Why is the trans issue a thing? Why is the gay issue a thing? Right? Why is abortion a thing? And the reason is because it's a wedge issue. It's basically, they're difficult questions and people get like creeped out or they have like the ick factor about it, right? And that's how they get them to vote for them. So we're going to skip ahead a little bit here. But that's the whole point here.
For ethics violations, Cameron continued to produce bogus studies widely cited by anti-gay groups. Since then, however, as the United States has grown more diverse and more progressive, the bedrock foundation of the religious right has been slowly chipped away. First, it was anti-sodomy laws aimed at making gay sex illegal. Those were officially done away with in the 2003 Supreme Court case Lawrence v. Texas, which was a galvanizing force that became...
I want to qualify this to anti-sodomy laws. That's anti-anal sex. It's also anti-oral sex. So, boys and girls, if you like, you like a little oral sex, Republicans don't want you to have it. No oral sex for you. No blowjobs. All porn, gone. No more porn.
I mean, these are the real issues, people. These are the real issues.
Yeah. This is what's important.
They want to take away your porn. I mean, they don't want to tell you that. They'll talk to you about the gun thing, but they don't want to talk to you about the porn thing. They want to take away your porn.
Yeah, well, sorry to get a little dirty here, but, if you like to have your cock sucked or your clit licked, no. Can't be done. We're not doing it. No more.
No wonder they're so angry. I'm so sorry.
You fucking nailed that. That was a good point. All right. That was great. Sorry.
Obsolete with the Supreme Court's Obergefell ruling in 2015, legalizing gay marriage nationwide. And while there are still evangelicals who are mad about the gay marriage thing, the vast majority of Americans are in favor of allowing the gays to wed. It no longer has the ability to whip the electorate into a fear-mongered frenzy like it once did. But the religious right still had one thing. They still had abortion. Pictures of tiny fetuses, heartbeats, and fingernails in the womb. These ideas still created a fervor in the religious right, enough to get them to show up to the polls at far greater numbers than any other voting.
And so that's kind of the semi-point here. It's about, can we get the white evangelical uneducated electorate to vote? Because they are still almost 50%. Well, I think they are 50% of the country. If we can get them to vote, right? Because heaven forbid, gay people have sex or fall in love or have lives. Heaven forbid, women get medical treatment that they need. The problem is they've lost on all these issues. As time has gone by, we've progressed, we've gotten better. And just to give you a sense of this, so here is, where do Americans stand on abortion? Okay. Legal abortion. Can you see this? Let me zoom it in. All right, here we go. Legality of abortion, 3 reviews. Legal under any circumstance, 34%. Legal under certain circumstances, 51%. 13 say it should be illegal. Whatever, have no opinion. But look at that. That's 85% who think it should be legal in some way or another. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've learned, we've evolved, we've changed. That's the thing that they're missing with this whole fucking argument is time moves forward, and we've moved forward as a culture, as a people. Granted, we don't move as fast as the economy or technology or business, but culture does move. It just takes a while. We're not, as sophisticated as we'd like to think we are, but we are sophisticated. We're not idiots. So let's watch a little bit more of this, and I'm gonna hit this with another point.
Quickly. Back in 2016, after the gays were allowed to wed, the religious right was like, what new thing about the gays could we get people whipped up into a voting frenzy about? Well, we've kind of exhausted our options with the L and the G. The B, I don't know. Do bisexuals even really exist? They're also sometimes hetero.
I don't know. Lacey,
all right. That one was personal. Don't take shots at me. Don't take shots at me. I'm so sick of getting kicked out of every damn club. I can't even tell you.
Do you really exist?
I'm sure that was such a sensitive spot for me, but I kind of want to punch her in the face, even though I probably am with her on the point she's going for. I'm so tired of not getting to be in club hetero, not getting to be in club gay. I'm not hetero enough because I'm not hetero. I'm not gay enough because I'm bisexual, and suddenly I don't get to be in any camp.
I'll cut this portion if you want me to. Just let me know. But I'm going to say this. You know what it is? We're jealous. That's what it is. The rest of us, we got to choose one and go with it. You get to sample the whole buffet cart. It's unfair, Lacey. It's so fucking unfair.
You know what? There really is something to that jealousy thing, though. It's too. It comes up in my dating life. I'm somewhat recently single again, and I've had the realization people don't really know what to make of that because everybody's sort of an option. I mean, that's not how I see it. I'm not attracted to literally everybody.
Right?
But you know what? It does make people feel a little insecure. I've noticed.
Well, we've had
that because everybody's an option.
But we've had that conversation before. I mean, how many times when we were in college did I get hit on by, young gay men, like underwear model kind of men?
Very attractive. You were able to attract some very attractive men. Unfortunately, that wasn't the direction you were oriented. So it didn't pan out as being all that useful for you, but the compliment was phenomenal.
Yeah, but let's be fair. If I were gay, or if I were,
you would so be partnered because you had some great options.
Oh my God. Great options is putting it mildly, Lacey. These guys we're talking about like Hugh Jackman kind of guys. I mean, gorgeous Pierce Brosnan, name Rock Hudson, you name it. Hitting on me. It was hurtful. It was hurtful a little bit. It hurt me in my soul.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
They were nice guys.
All right, I suppose we can let her keep talking. She's now offended me, but I'm willing to let her talk.
She was being sarcastic about that. So
yeah, but that sarcasm is only funny because it's like a real thing that happens.
Yeah, well, you know, you're selfish and you get to choose whatever you want off the buffet cart, and so you have to just be happy.
Apparently so.
That's what it is.
All right,
like probably fine. And then what's the next letter? Oh yeah, T. Wow, now T is an interesting option. There have been some national headlines in recent years that had brought trans rights to the forefront in a way that had never happened before. Laverne Cox played a main character role in Orange is the New Black starting in 2013, becoming the first openly trans person to be nominated for an Emmy in an acting category, and later the first to win the award. Chelsea Manning's leak of sensitive documents and transition while going through the legal process made national and international news, and her sentence was commuted by President Obama in 2016. In April 2015, Caitlyn Jenner came out publicly as a trans woman, appearing in a 2020 segment and on the cover of Vanity Fair magazine as the first out trans woman to appear on the cover. So trans visibility was having a moment, and as with any progress, there was, of course, some backlash. But it took the conservatives a bit of time to get it right. They started with bathroom bills. In 2016, again, the main motive to get them to the polls is fear. So they thought, hey, what if we told people that trans women were really just men in disguise as women so they can go into women's bathrooms and attack you? Yeah, that'll get them right.
Yeah, first off, that doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. It's like gnomes doing drive-bys on unicorns on Mars. It's a horrible thing, but it's an imaginary crime. It doesn't occur. Does not occur.
Yeah, like when is the last time you saw a headline where that happened? Because if that happened, there would be crazy headlines about it.
Oh no, Fox News would be running it 24/7. Doesn't happen.
But they're not, because
it doesn't
occur.
Not happening. Yeah. And furthermore, not to be cruel, but gay people they're interested in other gay people who are adults.
Yeah, it's not like a religion where you're like, hey, how many people can we convert? I have been to exactly 0 gay conventions or pride events where they had some great meeting about how we are to convert all the heteros. Nobody's interested in it.
You guys don't do that?
Nah, y'all can just stay over there and do your thing. We're kind of more interested in each other than you guys. We don't care that much about you guys.
I'm a little hurt by that, but okay. I'll survive.
Sorry.
All right.
Up. In 2016, North Carolina legislators voted to bar transgender people from using the bathroom that didn't correspond with their assigned gender at birth. The backlash was swift and harsh from corporations, sports teams, and even Bruce Springsteen, so that lawmakers eventually rescinded the bill. Because bathroom bills are dumb, y'all. Men who want to attack and assault women aren't going to be dissuaded by a law that says you can't enter a woman's bathroom. Like, I'll rape and murder, but going into the wrong bathroom, that's where I draw the line. And people kind of knew that. And the issue, while popular with the fear-mongering Fox News crowd, really didn't get people riled up in the way that conservatives knew needed to happen for them to turn out in droves and vote. So, advocacy groups began polling to determine whether curbing transgender rights had resonance with voters, and if so, how to best talk about the issue. Because again, this has never been about protecting children or about Christian morals. It's always been about power, getting elected and staying elected. And polling found that, in particular, voters were significantly more likely to support a Republican candidate who favored a ban on transgender girls participating in school sports than on transgender people using bathrooms.
And that's the issue. And she finally got to it, and I mean, she did a great job. She hammered that whole thing home. She did a great job on that. So we talked about this last time about trans women in sports. And the interesting thing about it is it's not actually an issue. Sports leagues are generally private corporations, or they're conglomerations of private corporations. And they make their own judgments about how that is. And a lot of it comes down to testosterone or, things like that. It's a chemical thing. It's not quite what they think it is. So let's do this. So here is Gallup on gay rights. All right. And what do we think about that? And what has changed about that? So you look from 96 to almost today. Should same-sex couples be married? Do you see this shift between the green line, yes, and the blue line, no? It's flipped.
Right.
70% of people back in 96 said no. Whatever it was, 27% said yes. It's flipped now. 71% of people say yeah. 28% of people say, well, no. It's changed, right? Our opinions have changed about how all these things work. I think this is important to understand that it's not what it used to be, right? Let me get out of this for a second. Hang on. But you saw that. That's, what is it going on that's important? Now, the transgender sports issue, that, on the other hand, the Republicans do have a small edge on that issue. And it's kind of a depressing thing to point out, but here it is. So, let me do this. So, more say birth gender should dictate sports participation, blah, blah, blah. All right, so American views on transgender athletes, 2021, 2023, able to play teams that match their identity, 34% in 2021, 26% in 2023. And I can go through this whole article, but what it basically shows you is that's happening. Now, here's where it's interesting. American views on transgender athletes by party, blah, blah, blah. I want to get to this other one. Moral acceptability. Okay. Familiarity with transgender persons. The numbers change. Right? People that know somebody who's transgender are more apt to want to let them participate. Now, it's gone down some, but it's still what it is. More people, if they know them, want them to participate and want them to be accepted. It's the whole Harvey Milk thing I brought up before. Come out wherever you are. If we know one of you, we're more likely to accept you.
I mean, that honestly, I think that holds weight. If you think back to 1960s civil rights between black and white issues, once white people started having black friends, black neighbors, black colleagues in a workplace, having real human beings that they knew attached to these ideas rather than they're just ideas in their mind, it became way harder to say, no, I don't want you to be able to XYZ, because there was a real person behind that you. It wasn't just like an imaginary you.
Right. I'll give you a great example. So I was taking care of this kid, and I was living near Portland State, and we were in the elevator of my building, and there were two kids living in the building who were black kids, right? Wealthy black kids, because I didn't live in a cheap building. And we were riding down the elevator. They got out. We got out. And the kid said to me, he's like, weren't you scared? And I'm like, of what? He's like, the black people. And I'm like, you mean the students? I said, what's the worst thing they're going to do? ask us to edit their papers.
Right.
Honestly, what are they going to do? But I realized that the kid was scared of black people because he was raised by people, and he was in that situation where he thought black people were going to hurt him, or they were terrifying or something. And so I asked a friend of mine who's a real estate agent, who happened to be a black guy, wonderful guy. And I said, hey, do you mind if I take you out to lunch? But this is why. I need you to show this kid you're just a regular guy. And like you said, you don't want to be the token that has to prove it, but for some people, that they need that. They have to have that. You know, it's an unfortunate reality, but it is what it is. But the Republicans are running on that, and they're running on it because they are sort of semi-winning. They've sort of changed the scale a little bit where it's in their favor. But it's only on the trans sports issue. That's all they got. So that's what they're running on. So I want to run one more thing real quick, because we covered the Daily Wire. They did the Lady Ballers movie, which is the anti-trans movie. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's Ben Shapiro basically admitting the whole thing is bullshit and we're right. And Ben Shapiro is one of the founders of the Daily Wire. And this is the Majority Report. This is Sam Cedar and Emma Bicklin.
Is belied by their story of how to develop their movie. And the funny thing is, you can tell, like, Shapiro's so excited, like he's finally getting his TMZ type spot. And he forgets, like, wait a second, I'm belying the entire premise of 90% of the revenue we've made from the Daily Wire over the past, like, year and a half.
Idea. So you approached me and you said we should make a fictional film about this topic. Now, to be fair, I think I'd actually suggested to the Grain Boys that they do this as a doc.
Yes.
I originally went to them and I said, you guys should, like, go try out for a bunch of ladies' leagues. And that became not possible because, as it turns out, most ladies' leagues don't allow in actual men. And they weren't willing to go the full distance in terms of what it would require in order to, the actual hormone treatments and everything to play in some of the ladies' leagues. But in any case, it turned into this.
Did you catch that? So their whole movie, the whole premise, they've been running this anti-trans shit for like 2 years. I mean, that's the majority of their content. That's where they get a lot of their money from. And the whole premise was all these women are going to, or all these guys are going to compete in women's sports and just put on a wig. And then he's saying, we tried to do that and we couldn't get any guys to do it because it was too fucking hard. Because you'd actually have to change your hormones and your gender.
Right, because it's not just like a random free-for-all. There's, like, regulation kind of surrounding that.
Right.
To make it so it's not just some crazy free-for-all.
Right. So my point is they've made some ground on this issue, but that's because nobody fucking understands it. And the reality is this issue they've made some ground on is stupid. It's incredibly stupid. And we've talked about that. It can't be done. You can't just put on a wig and go compete against a bunch of women. And even if you did, what would be the point? Which was your point last time.
Yeah, well, it seems like a ridiculous point, but what's the point is a really pretty valid point in this one.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to hammer that home, that this is one of the big issues they're running on. We covered it, we nailed it down, but it's a horrible thing to run on. It's very bigoted, it's very prejudiced, and I was upset by it, so I covered it. We're done. All right. Now, let's cover Lacey's issue.
All right, so yeah, let's cover my issue. Let's
Yeah, let's do that. Why don't you jump in?
Let's do that.
Lacey's going to talk to you about the abortion issue.
Yeah, I am. We'll watch a clip too, but first, this is,
We got a couple clips,
I need to have my Jay Leno moment. I get to have my little monologue here. So
you can have a couple. Go for it.
I'm going to. I'm going to. So we'll give this. The reason I want to cover this again, because I realized that I really had some things to say and I was feeling pretty angry about it. Getting ready in the morning and in the radio, I have the radio on as I'm buzzing around getting ready to go to work, and I just heard a blurb, about the Texas case, the abortion case going on, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I realized I just felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I felt angry all over again. As our viewers all know, I'm a bisexual woman, and I just said I am somewhat recently single, within the past couple of years. And previous to that, I'd been in a 15-year relationship with a woman. And so I actually, to some degree, I think I can identify with men and people that don't necessarily have women's reproductive rights on their radar very much, because I didn't have a reason to be hugely concerned about pregnancy or the fear of dealing with that for a long period of time. It had fallen off my radar. And I understand when it's not on your radar, you don't think about what a big deal it is.
Sure. Well, can I say something real quick here? Yeah. So Lacey texted me really early this morning, said, "Hey, put this in there." I said, "Of course, anything you want." But it's also, I mean, I'm not a woman, so I don't understand. I mean, I understand. I don't comprehend.
Well, that's the perspective that I'm trying to bring here, because, and what I'm offering is that I too have been in a moment in time where my ability to understand it was minimized. Obviously,
sure,
I was still a woman during that whole period of time, but I didn't have to worry about what would happen if I was pregnant. Yes, I was partnered, but I was also partnered with a female, so that was not going to be an issue unless extremely deliberate, right?
Right.
Now, I'm a woman. I am a bisexual woman, and I have been seeing men, right? That's constantly, it's now back on my radar as a constant issue and a constant concern that, I'm sorry to say, women are the ones that have to be worried about. Yes, there are responsible men out there that have concerns about it, but ultimately, men, you're not the ones sitting there concerned about whether something failed or whether you're becoming pregnant. And then, should you become pregnant as a female, going and having a conversation with a man, would that man actually be a man who would stick around and be responsible or not? And people love to argue that the courts are helping you take care of that, but I'm sorry, I have many clients and friends who have not had success with having men help take care of these children that have been brought into the world.
Well, sure. Let me say this. Now, it's not my body.
It's not your body. So let's also start with the premise that, I'm sorry, if you're not the one who's going to incubate for that duration of time and go through all of that, you really don't get much of a vote. But beyond that, when you take away a woman's ability to have that vote, force her to have children, you're forcing an economic situation on her. You're forcing life choices on her. And you're not forcing that on men. You can say all the live long day that we'll take these men to court and they'll have to pay you child support. That's fun. That's cute. That's really cute. But the number of men that manage to hide, dodge, and run away from those responsibilities is really high. There's a lot.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot.
Well,
and women don't have that luxury once they have that child.
Well, and let me be fair here. I mean, let's just be fair on this whole issue is, you know, if men were the ones having children, since we're the ones in power, right, you'd be able to get an abortion at the local 7-Eleven. You know, Eric would call me and he'd be like, oh my God, this bitch lied to me and she got me pregnant and blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, okay, we're going to go to 7-Eleven. We're going to get you an abortion, a slushie. And we're going to go see the new Marvel movie. Okay, it'll be fine.
Sure.
That would be it. That would be the whole conversation.
Right.
And it would cost me, what, $40?
And let's you know, again, I'm going to rehammer this home. Let's add perspective. Should I happen to miss a period and I don't have access to aborting, I'm suddenly pregnant, I loop back to this male who helped me get into this situation, and he may or may not answer his phone, return my call, choose to participate in any way, shape, or form, in which case I, as the woman, still would be stuck in my situation, and he magically gets to have his fun and dip out, and I can pursue it in the court. And we know how quick the government is to act on anything.
Sure.
If you can even find the person. So a bunch of men in power are essentially holding a bunch of women down, potentially economically, and with all of their life choices by trying to take away the right to actually deal with the situation the way they choose to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I want to make 2 points on that because, first off, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you can sue him and he's liable for child support, but whether or not he pays it, who gives a shit? The bottom line is it's your body that's sacrosanct that's being submitted here, right? Because nobody goes through a pregnancy and their body doesn't change. It just doesn't fucking happen. It's not realistic. And on top of that fact, you're the one who's going to be stuck with the child and having to raise the child, which is a whole nother, like you said, economic situation. On top of the fact, really what this whole thing is about, this whole exercise is about, it's not about the emancipation of women. It's not about helping people out. It's not about saving babies. You know what it's about? Punishing women for having sex.
Yeah, let's jump in. Let's jump in on that one. So, fun fact, I have been in the room with a woman receiving abortion services. Yeah. I've actually been in that room. I actually went with somebody.
I've done it a couple times. Yeah.
And why was she having abortion services? She was having abortion services because somebody slipped a drug into a drink of hers at a party and she woke up surrounded by men. And I'm going to leave it there because I think your imagination can fill in what happened.
Yeah, that's pretty horrible.
And so do you really want to look that woman in the face and tell her she's required to go through with a pregnancy when that's what happened to her? She has no clue which one of those men, nor would she consent to
many men that raped her. Yeah.
Which one is she suing? Right?
Yeah.
So before you try to make a bunch of rules regulating women's bodies, stop and think. Use your brain. If that was your friend, your sister, would you literally look at your friend, your sister, and tell her that she should be required to do this? And if that's who you are, you really, really need to stop and think. You need to think about who you are as a human. Let's take a look at Kate Cox.
Yeah.
This is the woman in Texas. Her situation was that she was pregnant and this was not ever going to become a child. It was literally going to medically die. It was not going to survive. But she was actually required to wait until the point where her life was actually at risk.
And she'd be infertile.
Now, the appeals court, they did rule in her favor, but then the governor used some sort of like executive order or whatever to overturn, which he doesn't really have the right to do, and tie this whole thing up.
Yeah, and she had to flee the state. So here's the clip that Lacey's talking about right here. This is Good Morning America. Just to tell you how big of a story this is, Good Morning America is doing this story.
Breaking news overnight, the Texas Supreme Court freezing a lower court's ruling that would have allowed a woman to get an emergency abortion. ABC's Elizabeth Schulze joins us now from the Supreme Court in Washington, where it's been nearly 18 months since the High Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning to you, Gio. And we have not seen a case like this since the Supreme Court issued its decision on Roe v. Wade back in 1973. In this case, a woman in Texas with severe pregnancy complications is suing the state to allow her to get access to an emergency abortion. And now the state's highest court is weighing in, putting that request on hold. Overnight, a setback for abortion rights advocates. In a first-of-its-kind case, the Texas Supreme Court temporarily blocking 31-year-old Kate Cox from obtaining an emergency abortion. Cox, a mother of two, filed the legal challenge at 20 weeks pregnant. Her doctor saying her fetus has virtually no chance of survival. They warn continuing to carry the pregnancy could jeopardize her health and future fertility.
There's no outcome here, that results in us taking home a healthy baby girl.
On Thursday, a lower court ruled in favor of Cox, granting her request for an emergency abortion despite the state's near total ban. But hours later, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton appealed the ruling, asking the state's Supreme Court to intervene. Late Friday, it did, putting a temporary hold on the lower court's decision without regard to its merits as it reviews Paxton's appeal.
And there you go.
So, what is the value, I ask those voters who want to rush to the poll and make absolutely certain they're requiring women to have whatever pregnancies for as long as possible? What value was it in keeping her in this pregnancy? She just said it herself, and so did her doctor. There was no result there that was going to translate into her being able to bring home a healthy living child. That was literally never going to happen, and yet she was being denied her medical care because there are a bunch of people that are hell-bent on women being required to carry pregnancies.
Well, on top of that fact, she has 2 children, and she wants to have more, but you're talking about if we went through this to its natural process, she'd be infertile. And I hate to fucking point this out. It's like, I don't know. I grew up, when I was a kid, we had Nick at Night. And they used to show old shows from the 50s and 60s. And the amazing thing to me about all those shows is it was almost all those kids didn't have a mother, and the mother always died in childbirth. Think of Andy Griffith. Opie's mother died in childbirth. I mean, even the Brady Bunch, his wife died in childbirth. And you guys want to go back to that?
I mean, apparently they do, because that's exactly where they're sending us.
Yeah.
We're trying to anyway.
I don't know. It's a like I said, with the trans thing, it's a hatred and disgust of other people that they don't like. Gay people, trans people, immigrants, black people.
And women are only good so much as you can keep them in line, right? I mean, is that the message here?
Well, that's how I feel about it, but don't clip that. Nobody clip that, please. That was a joke.
Maybe you'll clip it out.
Yeah. No, I appreciate a bitch who will tell me off. That's why that's why I have Lacey.
Yeah. Most of them. That's why you keep me around.
That's
right?
why I keep Lacey. Right. No, Lacey's a sweetheart. She took care of me in college. But yeah, no, you're right. That's it's about punishing women. That's all it is. And it's stupid. It's counterproductive and it's stupid. But you know what it does? It brings voters to the fucking polls.
Right.
And that's all they care about. They only care about power. They don't give a shit about how it actually affects people's lives. They're not civil servants. They're, they're power mongers. That's all they are. So.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you had any. I wanted.
No, that's all.
I wanted. Actually, no. I have one more clip for you because we covered this last week. I wanted to do this from Joyce Reed, where she kind of covered this, and I want you to comment a little bit about this.
The Texas Supreme Court heard arguments today on whether the state's abortion bans hurt women with complicated pregnancies. It's part of an ongoing lawsuit filed by a group of Texas women who say they were denied abortions despite grave risks to their own lives or to their fetuses. A lawyer for the Center for Reproductive Rights, which filed the suit on behalf of the women and 2 doctors, said the bans have left doctors confused about what care they can provide.
The abortion bans as they exist today subject physicians like my clients to the most extreme penalties imaginable: life in prison and loss of their medical license. And while there is technically a medical exception to the bans, no one knows what it means, and the state won't tell us.
So this is the kind of the joke. So you're a doctor in Texas, right? You have a patient who needs an abortion to save their lives, right? I mean, honestly, if you were to ask me if they just wanted an abortion, that would be cool too. Nobody should have to be burdened with that if they don't want it. But in a situation even where the person needs it to save their life, the law is so convoluted that if I'm the doctor, I could do life in prison if I perform that abortion. Even if you're dying, I don't know.
Ironically, if you were the doctor, you could do life in prison for performing the abortion, but if you don't perform it, you're effectively killing your patient.
Right. So I'm violating my oath.
Maybe evaluate it that way.
Well, you're absolutely right. So I'm violating my oath. Right? What's the doctor's oath? To do no harm? I mean, you're basically asking these people to violate everything they signed up to do. Why? Because you're going to get some political advantage? They don't really give a shit about this issue. They don't fucking care. It's about power. It's always about power.
You know, I don't want my life to be a pawn in somebody's play for power, quite frankly. It's disgusting.
Yeah, but that's what it is. You know, let me skip ahead here. Because I want to get to this, because we talked about this before, but...
All right, we're going to have to get to it fast, because the clock is not looking great on me.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll get to this, and we'll get to the last thing.
The highest.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, we'll get to this, and we'll get to the last thing real quick here. All right, real quick. Oh, hang on.
Plaintiffs are seeking You have to have a woman who is pregnant, who has some health condition that she believes places her life at risk or impairment to a major bodily function, but her doctor says, I don't think it does. And she has to then sue the doctor and maybe the attorney general at that point, and then she would have standing.
I don't know if that would be the only circumstance, but you would at least then know that the law is the problem and not the doctor refusing to perform an abortion.
Amanda, the judge.
Yeah, I have no idea how that woman lives her life. We discussed that before. So the argument is you have to be dying, and your doctor has to disagree with you. And then you can sue, and a lawsuit takes what, 1 to 2 years?
But by which I'm probably dead if I'm dying.
Absolutely. But so you can't bring a lawsuit till then.
It says it would be better for me just to die. Like the law is just like kind of cool with me dying.
That was her argument. Yeah.
I can't even.
It's fucking amazing. It's amazing with these people. And this is what they're running on. This is the 2024 election right there.
Well, I'll be showing up to vote. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, I'll show up to vote too. All right, so hang on one sec. I'm going to do this real quick. Let's skip over to this. I just want to do this real quick. We might have to clip out and come back real quick, but we're going to be fast about this one. So I want to talk about the economy real quick. So we're going to do Chris Hayes, and he's going to talk about this. So a similar segment, but you know.
The president's son, Hunter Biden, who's already been charged, who had charges brought against him by a prosecutor in Delaware.
Right.
It looked like they were going to come to a plea agreement. The judge in that rejected that plea months ago.
My gosh.
So we went back to.
Sorry, wrong segment. Oh, well, I kind of lost it, didn't I? All right. You know what? I'm going to do this real quick, and we're going to close out. We're going to do this segment. It's I'm going to pull from the majority report real quick. So Joe Rogan, because I want to give you a concept of what the mentality of the conservatives is and how it works. But this is really dark. And I just want to cover it real quick, and then we'll bail out.
They discussed talking about how you basically need to kill communism. So
yeah, you can't say what you want in comedy. I mean, he's got the biggest podcast that exists. And the idea that
That's true. Joe Rogan has about 10 million followers. He's on Spotify. He's got 100 million a year. So yeah, he's huge.
Can't say whatever he wants. Even, Spotify, the company that, incidentally, they just laid off 1,500 people, Spotify. And I think Rogan's contract is probably coming up very soon. It's going to be interesting to see what they do about this. It's a real corporation, and they publish. They don't just publish; they produce Joe Rogan's show. By produce, I mean they pay.
Now, I want to make a note real quick. So this is Sam Cedar that we're looking at. Joe Rogan is so afraid of Sam Cedar, he won't even say his name. He'll criticize him on air, but he won't say his name. He's terrified of this guy. So, but I want to watch this just real quick. Sorry.
For it. And it's exclusive.
maybe that thing is like, maybe there's a little bit of a culty aspect to that thing. And here's a question. Do you think we're doing the same thing overseas? Are we doing the same sort of social media campaigns? Ooh. We must be. I asked Mike Baker and he fucking gave me the runaround.
I think here's my honest. Everybody that starts a conversation by saying here's my honest opinion. But my assessment in this is I think that we have forfeited portions of foreign service to the left in the context of wokeism, politically correct, like the act of maintaining your sovereignty in the context of military and then economically is not politically correct. You can't broker in that rhetoric and then implement a strategic long-term goals and objectives that are going to meet and exceed what we have to do to maintain America and ultimately America's power overseas if you believe in it. You just can't, because it's not politically correct. If you believe that all nations are created, equal and all political ideologies are equal, that's just wrong. It's not. I think communism is a dog shit ideology. I think that it should have been flushed down the international toilet a long time ago.
We just haven't done it good yet.
Yeah.
We're going to figure it out this time, Evan.
Yeah, and
You're so close-minded.
You can't dabble in it.
Right.
It's so dangerous to start dabbling in these things because it's a failed ideology. You have to flush it down the toilet. It has to go away forever. And then you have to evolve past that at a certain point. But when you've co-opted our academic institutions and you've indoctrinated generations.
Pause it for 1 second. I mean, what's fascinating is about he's talking.
Well, he's got a terrible point there, which is there's something wrong with the left, with liberalism, with communism. And communism is a failed ideology, and they love to do this thing. And the bottom line is there's never been a communist country. There have been dictatorships that call themselves communist, but there's never been a communist country. And the bottom line is he's sitting here and he's setting this whole thing up, and it's so fucking disgusting. Let me move into it. All right, so we're going to move forward a little
Throwing communism in the toilet.
This anti-communist extermination program spanned 45 years to at least 22 countries. Talk about how U.S. policy can really be seen extending through all of these countries, from Brazil to Vietnam, and why this should all be seen kind of in the same lens.
Right, yeah, so my book is really about the intentional mass murder of leftists, or people that are accused of being leftists. And as I said, I found that this happened in at least 22 cases in the Cold War, from beginning, I believe, 1954 in Guatemala was the first case that we have good evidence of until the end of the 20th century. And I think that these must be seen as interconnected, because if you look at the particular tactics that are used, the ways that this happens across the Cold War, you see an accumulation of techniques and tricks and even rhetorical devices across the entire Cold War. So one thing will work here, and then they'll apply that tactic there. One thing will not work here, they'll apply that there. Across those 22 countries, there is a variation in the level of the involvement of the United States.
So we're talking about the mass murder of people they deemed leftist. And we did that as a country. And this guy is promoting that concept. We'll get back into it.
Scary.
Yeah, we'll get back into it. I kept hoping that Joe Rogan would figure this out. That this guy's talking about death squads and genocide and that shit. And he never does. And we got to bail. Lacey, where can everybody catch you?
All right, as always, you can catch me at mysensewithsense.com for information about workshops, courses, and articles written by me. if you have questions about any of those items, or if you find us a news topic or a clip you want us to take a look at, send them our way via email. Duncan, where should they email us?
You can email us at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. It's down below. Please email us if you want to, send us stuff or just come on the show. God, we'd love for somebody to come on the show. We offer everybody all the time, and nobody ever does, but we'll see.
No takers yet, maybe eventually.
Yeah. Well, we're not debate bros. We're not going to hit you up. We're nice people. So, yeah, please come on. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you guys all later.
All right.